they were starting a course in effective counseling and coaching skills. What if I could give you a skill and just teach you something that would make you an effective therapist, that would comprise 80% of your coaching, that would be an entire modality in counseling, that would significantly improve your connecting, especially with any females in your life, that would avoid the main reasons that therapy fail. Think that would be useful?
Sure.
That's what we're going to be doing. Because we're going to be talking today about attending skills, which includes listening. How many of you ever heard of Rogerian therapy? What that is, comes with a guy named Rogers, and all Rogers would do is sit there and listen to people. Now, he was a humanist, so he believed that the answers were within the person, so if he just listened, they would eventually figure it all out. Of course, we know in Christianity that the Spirit of God is within us, so we do have the answers within us if we can just hear from God, and He can help us, but he would just listen. Now, they did do some research on it, and they determined that maybe he wasn't just totally listening, but because of the way he would nod or attend to the people, he was sort of giving them signals of what he was approving of and what he wasn't approving of. You see what I'm saying? But the idea is, majority of people, if we just listen, that's going to help. Research says this, when they study the different modalities in counseling, it says that take 3 things are common to all those that work. The first one is the person really listens with unconditional positive regard. They come across that they really care about the person. Another is that they have some sort of an explanation of what is going on, so they help the person make sense of what is happening. So the 3 things, listening, unconditional positive regard, and making some sense out of it, is the basis of all counseling. It's that fundamental, it's that rudimentary. And so we're going to be talking about those kind of things today. Now, in this course, sort of as an overview, we're going to be talking about attending, questioning, observation skills, summarizing and integration, methods of confrontation. Those are all going to be the attending part of the course. Then we'll be talking about connecting, method, planning, documentation, analysis, and we're also going to be talking about ethical issues, because you need to know what the ethics are of counseling, what the ethics are of coaching, what to do, what not to do, how to keep yourself out of trouble. That will also be in this course, but that will be the end of this course. So the question is, what is attending? And we'll be going a lot from your textbook in these earlier sessions, which is basic attending skills. Attending provides a fundamental understanding and competence in the most important skills of helping, counseling, and therapy. Attending and listening skills provide the means for you to make contact with the client and to hear them accurately. What's going to happen if you really don't understand your client? You're going to get confused. We're going to have problems in the whole process. The skills are basic to empathy, the ability to be sensitive and understand the world of another person or another human being. They include individually and culturally appropriate verbal and nonverbal behavior in the interview that are central to helping the process. The main things of attending skills are eye contact, verbal tone, body language, and verbal following. And we're going to look at all of those. They demonstrate that you are listening and encourage the client to talk more freely. The goal of attending in counseling and coaching is emphatic listening. The ability to stand in another's shoes, feel what they are feeling, without any attempt to fix them, discount their emotions, or deny or avoid what they're trying to tell us, in such a way that the other person feels valued and accepted and understood. To make that simple, we want to understand and know the other person, hear what they're saying, but we also want to give to them a feeling that we value them, that they're important. And that's going to be very important, because that's going to have to do with your relationship with your client. If the client doesn't feel that you care about them, are we going to have a problem? Because a lot of counseling is really more caught than taught. It's more, they can just pick it up from you. And say, today we're going to work on that. How do you come across that way? Our model of attending is God. You ever think about that? God is the most attentive person you will ever run into. He's always attending, even when he's silent. How many of you ever heard people say, well, God was silent? Duh. I mean, he's listening to you just because he didn't speak back to us, and that's the biggest problem we have with counselors. Counselors want to talk. And they talk and they talk and they talk. How many kids like their parents lecturing to them? What if instead they just listen? Wouldn't that be a shock? They probably find out a whole lot more about their kids if they're just listening. So listening is a big part of this. Psalms 55:2. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise. Psalms 86:6. Give ear, O Lord, unto my prayer, and attend to the voice of my supplications. Psalms 4:3. But know that the Lord has set apart him that is godly for himself. The Lord will hear when I call unto him. See, God is the perfect listener. Psalms 94:9. He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that founded the eye, shall he not see? See, God unconditionally values us. We're going to see all the different parts of attending here directly from the Bible. Luke 12:7. But even the very hairs of your head are numbered. Fear not, therefore, you are more valuable than many sparrows. Hebrews 2:7. Thou madest him a little lower than the angels, that's us, that thou crownest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of your hands. Now God does something that a lot of men don't do. God actually acts on what he hears. What's the main complaint that women have about men? They don't listen. Why don't men listen? Because they're always trying to fix things. But God listens, and that's what God wants us to do, and we're going to find that's a critical thing for a counselor. But when a woman says a man doesn't listen, does it mean the sound didn't go into his ears? No, it means he didn't do what they wanted him to. And so God acts upon what he hears. 1 John 5:15. And if we know that he hears us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we desire of him. God is ready to speak when we're ready to listen. John 16:13. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is come, he will guide you into all truth. For he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak, and he will show it unto you. Psalm 66:18. If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear. And 69:17. And hide not thy face from thy servant, for I am in trouble, hear me speedily. What do we say? God has a real relationship with us. And so he doesn't always talk to us sometimes because we don't want to talk to him and we don't want to hear him. We all want someone to listen to us, don't we? What does it mean if somebody really cares and somebody is really listening to us? We're valuable, right? And we all want to be valuable in life. Proverbs 5:1. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding. James 1:19. Therefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. The problem is what? Most of us don't earn the right to speak. You're listening when you really listen, when you really care about someone, when you really honor somebody. That earns you the right to speak. Why do a lot of people say a lot of stuff and nothing ever happens and it never works? Because the other person doesn't feel validated. The other person doesn't feel that you really care. And they don't. See, if you'll listen first and really listen and they know you really care, then they'll listen to what you have to say. And that's why this is so critical to counseling and to coaching. Is because if they don't know that you care, they're really not going to listen to you. I just had a client last week. And she was talking to this lady at her church who is supposed to be heading this ministry that they wanted her to be in. And right in the middle of the talking, this lady said something that triggered something in this lady. She never heard another word the lady said. In fact, she was distraught enough, and the lady didn't pick up. Is something wrong with you? Well, see, she didn't really hear. This other lady would have noticed that there was a problem here and would have dealt with it. Because of that, my client never heard anything this lady said. She just, mouth going up and down, not doing anything. And you as a counselor can be in the same situation. That because you didn't listen, they're not listening. Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Why don't a lot of things get resolved? Because you don't even know what the issue is. You haven't gone deep enough. Remember, we're not just talking about the words. We're talking about meta-communication. We're talking about the heart of the person. We want to develop a skill here where we go so deep that we really know where the person's coming from and we really eventually connect to them. So what are the components of basic attending skills that we're focusing in on here? The first one, as I said, eye contact. What do we want to do? We want to look at them, but we don't want to stare. And we want to take some breaks in our looking. See, if I just look at you and look at you and look at you, how do you feel? See, you break your contact. Well, it needs to be in a comfortable way. When I'm looking at you, I don't want to stare. I want to look there, then look there, but look back. But I want to be attentive to what's going on. Attentive body language. That's the second one. In a position, if I'm sitting down, I want to lean forward, shrunk forward, but an easy, open posture. What does an open posture mean? It's not this. It's not this. Open means my arms are open, they're easy, they're laying on my lap, I'm not crossing them, I'm not closing myself off to you, I'm not putting a barrier between me and you. Vocal style, how fast I talk, the volume, the tone that I use. If I go, now I really want to hear this. You see, that affects, and it says something to you, doesn't it? See, the truth is, everything we do is saying something to the client. Every movement we take, everything. What if you're sitting there and you start twitching? Or you're moving? Or you're constantly looking over at something, you're reading the blackboard over there. That all says something to the client, doesn't it? Verbal following is responding naturally. Don't jump. Don't interrupt. They have something they call movement synchronicity. What that is that you tend, if they move back, you sort of move forward. You sort of move together in what you're doing. The best example I know of, I've ever seen someone preaching with an interpreter, say like in Africa or someplace, and the person will be going like, in the name of Jesus, and the interpreter will go, Asakashoka. You see what I'm saying? That's movement synchronicity. There's a sort of a movement that takes up that if you're working together, synchronized, they're leaning back, maybe you're leaning forward, you're sort of moving together, and people pick that up too. Observe cultural differences. We have to realize that some cultures get closer to other people, especially like in South America and places like that, and in the Middle East. Some of them, they look down, they don't have eye contact because that shows respect. So you have to take into account the culture that they're in when you're doing these things. You'll fit easier in our culture, but in other cultures you have to watch out what's going on. And then individual differences. Some people are a little bit different, they do things differently, and you want to pick up and you want to fit in with their style instead of making them fit in with your style. What are some additional components? Those are the ones directly from your book, okay? What are some additional ones? I call really listening as one, where you really know, you really feel, you really pick up what the other person is doing. Paying attention without distraction. Validating behavior. What's validating behavior? And you just read the look on your face. Now when they're struggling with something, they can see you care on your face. An approving look. They found out with Rogers, the way he approved is he would nod a little bit. There would just be a little bit of movement enough to say, yeah, that's the direction to go. And so some people felt he really wasn't as non-structured as he thought. He was really controlling by sort of meta-communication certain things and directing the client in the direction that the client was going. Valuing the person, not what they do or what they've done. How do you get that across? The point is, you can't fake a lot of this stuff. It's your personality, it's your caring, it's your coming across. They can see it in your eyes that you care. They can see it in your expression that you care. Because remember, that unconditional positive regard is what needs to come across in this particular area. Listening. This is a statement from the Leadership Coaching book. Becoming a coach requires an extraordinary ability to listen. Listening affirms and empowers people to express themselves. The more you listen, the more they're going to talk. The more they're connecting with you, the more they're going to talk. This is my definition of listening. A relationship in which the receiver actually receives exactly what the speaker meant to send. Words, meta-communication, emotions, intentions, value, and motivation, and does not intentionally or unintentionally add anything to the message. In other words, true communication is what I am trying to communicate to you, what I meant to send to you, is what gets across to you. And we have all sorts of problems when that doesn't happen, especially between men and women in marriage counseling and so on and so forth, because they speak totally two different languages. What's the difference in those languages? Review that for a second. Men speak one part language, Russian. In other words, all they send is data. And their data is pretty technically accurate. What do women send? Women speak a three-part language. They send primarily emotions, secondarily motivation, and thirdly data. And their data expresses their emotions. So their data isn't necessarily technically accurate. So what normally happens that messes up communication? The guy comes home, and the woman says, "You're never here anymore." He says, "That's not true. I was here 3 years ago for 10 minutes. See, he discounted her feelings, didn't he? To correct her data. What do women do the other way? They make up data. The guy says something, and the woman looks at him and says, he's saying that because he doesn't like what I did. And so she makes up the emotions and makes up the motivation that she thinks goes along with the message. And this is why you get a man and a woman saying, he says, "I said it." "No, you didn't." And they go back and forth and no one can ever agree because she's dealing with three-part messages, he's dealing with one. So especially if you're dealing with somebody of the opposite gender, what are you going to have to do? Take into account the language that they're speaking. Think of it this way. What if I think that you're speaking English, but you're really speaking Mandarin Chinese? Are we going to have a communication problem? Because I'm going to try and make the Mandarin Chinese into English words. And nothing's going to make any sense, and I'm going to think you are the worst speaker of English I have ever heard. One of the ways they talk about it in Book of Love and Respect, they say that women look through pink eyeglasses and men look through blue eyeglasses, and so they misinterpret everything that the other person's doing. See, that kind of misinterpretation is also part of communication that we're talking about here. You see that? If I think my frame, let's just say I'm a man, okay? So my framework is that of a man. So if I look at one of the students in this class and I interpret what you do from a man's point of view, what's my view going to be like? Oh, sort of wimpy. Right? But if you look at a man from a woman's point of view, what are you going to say? Doesn't care. No motivation. I mean, just doesn't care about people. Just likes to get stuff done. What's wrong with it? So do you see the problem? It's our framework of how we look at other people that has a lot to do with what we're hearing. And we have to get in the other person's framework. That's that empathy thing, right? Empathy is what? Walking in another person's shoes, feeling what they feel, see how they see it. That's what we're trying to get across here in listening. We just don't want to know your data. We just don't want to see your metacommunication. We want to get into your heart, and we want to interpret correctly what you're trying to send us. Because if I look through the wrong color eyeglasses, I'm never going to see that. I'm going to misinterpret you totally. We see that so much in marriage and family counseling. It's just total misinterpretation of what kind of things are going on here. Mark 4:24. And he said unto them, take heed what you hear, for what measure you mete, it shall be measured to you, and unto you that hear shall more be given. What's it trying to say? It's saying that if you really listen, then they'll listen to you. What you sow, if you really care about them, then they'll care about you. And if you want to know more about somebody, if you really listen to what they're doing right now, then they're going to tell you more about themselves. They're going to open up more and more and more, right? Luke 8:18. Take heed therefore how you hear. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he seems to have. In Mark 4:33. And with many such parables spake he the word unto them, as they were able to hear it. We have a problem. Sometimes we can't hear stuff because of all of our barriers. So what are we going to have to do as a listener? Try and take down our barriers, try not to stereotype, try not to see the person, try not to guess what they're going to tell us, and really try to focus in what they're trying to get across to us and where they're really coming from. And we must act on what we hear. See, if you don't respond to what they're saying, what are they going to feel? You're not really listening. You're just off in your own world doing your own thing. What are some of the wrong ways? What are the things that we do wrong that we want to avoid when we're listening? One of the things is, don't be thinking about something else. Well, let's see. I wonder if I'm going to take my car to the shop today. Another thing that men particularly do is they're thinking how they're going to fix it. Another one of the real big problems is you're thinking how you're going to respond to what they're saying. Or in counseling, you're trying to analyze them instead of really listen first. You need to learn to listen first, and then you can put it together and try and analyze what's going on here. See, we have this whole thing where we get curious about something. We sort of identify, well, the problem, what if it's this over here? We sort of come up with a potential solution, and we sort of had a plan. What did I just do? I just missed everything they said in that whole time period while I was going through this other method that I was doing over here. How many of you ladies especially like to be trying to talk to your husband he's reading the newspaper? Why do you like that? Does that bother you at all? For most ladies especially, that bothers you a whole lot. Because why do women use communication? To connect, to build relationship. Now men may use it just to get done, and they'll tell you, oh, no problem, I can do two things at once. But can you really do two things at once? Can you be thinking two trains of thought in your mind at the same time? No. At the very best, you're time sharing. Thinking about this, thinking about that, thinking about that. And that takes away from your listening, so you don't want to do that. You don't want to have personal issues in your life when you're trying to listen to somebody. What does it show? If I'm listening to you and I'm really distracted by something else, what does it show? What's my priority? Are you important to me? Or if what's going on TV is important? Have you ever done that? I've been over at somebody's house and they have the TV on, and I'm trying to discuss with them and talk to them about a particular subject. And on the TV, I'm hearing what's going on in the news or something on the TV, and I'm trying to pay attention to them, but I'm listening to this. How good of a listener am I? Am I doing very good? I don't think I am. We can have transference and countertransference. You know what that is? That's in counseling, where something that the client is dealing with triggers you, or something that you are doing triggers the client. How about interrupting? Have you ever done that? You were so excited to talk about stuff, you don't let the people get their entire statement out, you're just waiting for them to speed up, and it will just hurry up and get done so I can tell you what I really want to talk about. How does that come across? Not very good. It comes across we're not valuing what's being said. Listen to this, Philippians 2:3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem the other as better than themselves. How does that come into here? How you look at a person is going to come across. What if you look at the person that they're sort of a basket case and they're all screwed up and you really don't think they have a bolt in their head? They've lost all their marbles a long time ago and they're just giving you crazy gibberish. How well are you going to listen? So I'm going to suggest to you that even people that have mental illness, what they're saying to you has meaning. You're just going to have to go a whole lot deeper into what they're saying, and you're going to have to connect. But if you don't value them as a person or don't value what they say, it's going to come across that way, and you're going to shut them down. And they're going to feel rejected. Romans 12:10. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. I want to suggest that to really listen, you have to honor the person and say, you know what? They're a human being. They might not agree with me. They might not even see everything. They might not have the training that I have. But they have a right to their own thoughts. They have a right to their own emotions. They're a valuable person in the eyes of God. They're as valuable or more valuable than I am. So I need to value them. I need to honor them. See, how do you honor them? By attending. By paying attention to them. By not being distracted. By not doing other things. By not multitasking. By focusing on them. And that will give them that particular value. Notice this verse. 1 Corinthians 12:23. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, unto these we bestow more abundant honor. And our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. In other words, the more they're hurting, the more they're devalued and not counted anything, the more they're a homeless person, alcoholic, drug addict, the more you have to break through that mindset and value them and honor them and treat them like they are somebody. Because remember the unconditional positive regard. That's what gives you a right to be heard in the first place. Not attending gives a feeling of rejection. How many people you know use the cold shoulder? That's a perfect example of not attending. You're mad at somebody, so you just act like you don't hear them. You act like they're not there. So if you as a counselor act that way, how are you going to come across? If you're mad at them, you act like you don't care. You act like you're not as important as I am. I don't value you. So what are some of the mistakes? Let me give you different mistakes to avoid here. Prying into another person's life, where you're more interested in the, wow, look what they did, than you are in really listening to them. Rescuing them so they won't experience emotional pain. Focusing on the negative. What are the positive aspects in their life? Focusing on doing the right thing rather than listening. Well, we got to do this. Well, we can't have you doing that. You got to sit right over here. You got to, what does that say? You doing it right is more important than what you have to say and who you really are. Trying to be like somebody else. You're going to have to develop your own style in what we're talking about here today. Of how you flow, of how you actually connect. Giving advice or trying to solve the problem too soon. Because that makes you not listen. You don't really know what the problem is and what happens if you're trying to solve the wrong problem. Doesn't work too good. Trying to apply the same method to all clients. Ever hear the saying? That to a kid with a hammer, the whole world becomes a nail? A lot of counselors, you do that. You got your new technique. You just learned your new thing, right? So you try it with all your clients. What does that show? You're not really listening. You're not seeing them as an individual. You're thinking, well, we just knocked this square peg in a round hole if we hit it hard enough. Not adapting to the style of the client, but making them adapt to you. Not being culturally sensitive. Cultural stereotyping. Those are all things. Now let's go a step further. How about dealing with groups? Because attending isn't always just with one person. How do I attend if I'm in a group? Here are some rules. Balance your attending. Look at all members. You notice speakers? Have you ever noticed a speaker who only speaks to one side of the room? What does that make you feel like? How about someone that tends to focus on just one person? You know that's really hard not to do? The people that are really giving you good feedback when you're talking, you tend to look at a lot more than the people that don't. But no, attending, you need to spread it around and keep it evenly balanced. Similar body postures mirror one another and indicate alliances. So you can see of the people in the group of which ones are alliances, but also what does that mean? If you want an alliance with your client, similar body posture and so on, if they're laid back and so on, then you can lay back and you can connect with them by being like they are. Those in conflict avert eye contact and show body tension. What if every time you look at your client, they look away? That's a message. That's part of listening. To hear those kind of things. If you have a family group, they suggest 1/3 of your words ought to deal with the family or group, 1/3 of the members, and 1/3 of the topic. You need to connect with those people while you're talking. Another problem we have to deal with here a little bit, and they talk about in your coaching book, is turning the conversation off in your head. How many of us have an ongoing conversation going on in our head as we are supposedly listening? Well, how do you do that? You're going to have to practice that. We're going to want to practice that. But the idea is you need a different paradigm, a different way of looking at it. See, if you think your job is doing something other than listening, what are you going to do? Be working on the other aspects of that job. You got to get the paradigm. My job right now is just to listen, to understand where they're coming from. Then I will go to analyzing or figuring out the problem or where I'm going to go with the problem. But right now my job is just focused. I'm really listening and really hearing and really understanding and connecting with this particular client. You also need to get rid of distractions. If there's stuff that's going on, you can eliminate those in your environment, and you can have a supportive environment where you're the right distance from the person, you're working on things, you're not fiddling with your pencil, you're not, you know, it'd be nice to have your paper all laid out and everything organized so you're not doing other things. Well, this is all going on. How about non-attending? You know that sometimes you can use non-attending? See, we're teaching you how to attend, but you also need to know how to non-attend. What do we use non-attending? When you just have a client, we get them many times that just talk and 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 talk, and all they want to do is talk. How can you send them a message? You can use your non-attending skills. You can, and they'll get the message that maybe it's time to let you talk. You can use non-attending skills. Now what we want to do is we're going to do some exercises here. And we're going to be using the form that is in the book. And what we want you to do is we want you to start evaluating to learn the skill of picking up these attending skills and these non-attending skills and know which they are, right? So in your book you have a form. Is that okay? So you should have this form. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to do first a demonstration of how not to attend. And then we're going to do a demonstration of how to attend. And on your form we want you to watch these and mark off the different things and see what kind of things you can pick up on those. Okay, then after we finish that, then we're going to break into groups here. And we're going to have you practice with each other. And here are going to be, so in the small groups, you're going to assign different roles. One of you is going to be the helper, the other is going to be the helpee, and the other is going to be the observer. Okay? And then we'll switch off because we want you to practice these particular skills with each other and learn how to do this effectively. And then the third person is going to give you feedback as to how well you're doing. Maybe you could have done this better. Or do you see what you did over here? And we can either use real stories, you can make up stories. It'd be better actually if they were real because the person might be able to get deeper and really hear what you're saying and get deeper into that particular thing. Those of you that are watching on video, we're going to have these two. The first one's on video. We want you to evaluate them by the forms in your book. And then after the video, we want you to break up into groups and to do the same thing. To have one person talk, have the other one listen, have the other one evaluate. And then for homework, we're going to, this is your homework, okay? The first thing is we want you to monitor the distractions in your head. So that you go around, just watch. When you're listening to your kids, when you're listening to your husband, we want you to get focused and see how good of a listener you are and what kind of things are going through your head. Then we want you to practice listening to your family. You don't have to tell them you are, but we want to see if you can improve your skills because we need a lot more than just what we're doing here in this session. And then finally, we want you to see if you can teach somebody some attending skills. Take one of your kids or somebody and say, you know what, they're teaching me in class this thing about attending and listening. Would you like to learn how to really attend and listen? Because we learn a lot more actually from teaching than we do from getting. So do you have that? Understand that? So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to set up and we're going to do those two demonstrations. And we want you to observe those and to fill out that form dealing with these two situations. Hello, what can I do to help you?
Well, I have an unusual thing happening to me.
What's that?
I don't know if I'm in the right place for help or not, but I'm having some dreams.
Well, if you don't know, then you shouldn't be here.
Well, that's true, but you have to start somewhere, right?
Okay.
All right. Well, let me at least start, and if you think that you can't help me, then perhaps you could recommend someone.
Okay, but that's pretty hard to do, you understand?
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, I'm having these dreams, and...
You know, dreams really don't count for anything, do they?
They don't, no, I don't know that.
Oh, well,
Why?
generally you just ate too much pizza.
Well, that could be. But one dream was so vivid, and this is really important. This was a very important dream to me. It was really frightening. I don't know why I'm laughing. It was a very frightening dream.
Okay.
Okay, may I tell you the dream?
I guess you really would.
Oh, okay, I'll try to explain it to you. I had this dream. It's kind of hard to talk here. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? This dream, I had this dream that this building that was several stories tall collapsed. And it was so loud when it happened that I literally had a headache for the next 3 days.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, what kind of a dream is this? Is this a prophetic dream? Am I going to have, is this going to happen? Or was it pizza? Are you okay with it frightening you too?
No, I'm just a bit bored, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Okay, we can stop at that point. Okay. Obviously, what we're showing here is all the things not to do. Did you pick up some of the things not to do? You notice I'm closed, I'm crossing my arms, I'm playing tic-tac-toe on the board, I'm cutting her off, I'm interrupting her, I'm doing all the kind of things. Can you see how she can't get her story out at all, no matter what she does? Do you think she maybe felt a little bit emotionally discounted? You know, was I really following her? Was I really... See how bad it can be now? That's pretty blatant, but the idea is those little things we don't think that we're doing, and we do them anyway. So now we're going to do the session on how to actually attend, and we'll take the same story and we'll do it maybe a slightly better way. At least we hope we'll do better.
And this is a true story.
Okay, please start over.
Okay.
What can I do to help?
Well, I've been having some unusual dreams, and they frighten me. They get, during the day, when I don't feel afraid of anything. When I recently took a trip, I got real nervous about not flying, but just the trip itself, and somebody says, well, you don't have to worry about the terrorists. And I said, I'm not worried about the terrorists because if they take my life, I know where I'm going. And I'm afraid of the terminals. But see, the thing is, so I mean, literally, I'm not particularly afraid of anything, but I keep having these dreams. And this one in particular that was very frightening. The building is a building that houses retired people, and it's about 5 or 6 stories tall. But I had this dream that it collapsed, and the sound was so loud that my ears hurt, and I had a headache for 3 days.
Wow.
And the thing is that it makes me, the dream itself makes me worry a little bit, because I'm thinking, is this a prophetic dream? I'm not even sure this is a counseling situation, but when I'm telling you this story right now, I feel a little panic inside of me, wondering, is this going to happen? I have friends living there, and I'm not really too sure what to do about that. If it's just something that just happened and I don't need to worry about it, then maybe I need help getting rid of that panicky feeling that I feel when I think about this building. I've had other dreams where and I've had them over and over, they're the same
Okay, in this particular case, you notice that she was talking so well and attending, I didn't have to even ask any questions, I didn't hardly have to do anything, did I? And basically, she had a story, she was into it and so on, so I really didn't want to interrupt. I could have done some things to, you know, like, well, I understand, I could have repeated some words back, I could have done other things to encourage her, and since she was so much into it, and an important type of thing, when you go on with the story and additional demonstrations that we do here, that I didn't have to do very much. And sometimes attending, remember attending, you pretty much are just leaning forward and you just keep eye contact and you just are looking at the person, you're trying to understand what's going on and really listen. And that's all it really is. It's not a very difficult thing.